How old were you when you realized that the learning shouldn't stop just because you graduated from school?
How old were you when you realized that it's not the pursuit of happiness, happiness is the pursuit?
How old were you when you realized you're not as bad as you think you are when you're losing, and you're also not as good as you think you are when you're winning?
How old were you when you realized that making decisions don't require time, they require information?
How old were you when you realized that action creates energy?
How old were you when you realized that when trauma gets triggered, you don't act your age, you act the age the trauma was created?
How old were you when you realized that it's better to let go than be dragged?
How old were you when you realized that you're too full of life to be somebody's maybe?
How old were you when you realized that a lot of people keep going back to less because they're too impatient to wait for better?
How old were you when you realized that growth feels lonely because not everyone is meant to follow you into your next chapter?
How old were you when you realized you prefer isolation over company because being alone is less lonely than being surrounded people who remind you of how different you are?
How old were you when you realized the reason you self-sabotage is because it allows you to predict what's going to happen next and it gives you the illusion of self-control?
How old were you when you realized that no matter how good of a person you are, no matter what your intentions are, people are going to treat you based on their needs, their moods, and their wants?
How old were you when you realized you should click that follow button?